What if I told you that Persia never truly vanished from the map? That it did not collapse into dust, nor was it erased by conquest or time, but instead it quietly changed its name? Why would one of the most ancient civilizations on Earth, home to kings who ruled half the known world, decide in the 20th century to abandon the name by which the world had known it for over 2,000 years? Was it pride, politics, a search for identity, or something much deeper? Today, we are going to unravel a transformation that most history books reduce to a footnote. A transformation that was not simply about language, but about memory, power, religion, and how a nation chooses to define itself before the world. This is not just the story of Persia becoming Iran. This is the story of how a civilization survived conquest after conquest, absorbed foreign faiths, reshaped its own identity, and ultimately reclaimed a name that had never truly disappeared. But before we begin, take a moment to subscribe and let us know in the comments which other ancient civilizations you would like to see explored. Because sometimes the greatest mysteries are not buried under sand, they are hidden in plain sight. Now, let us travel back, far beyond the 20th century, far beyond Islam, far beyond even the word Persia. Let us begin at the dawn of the Iranian plateau. Long before the name Persia echoed in Greek courts, before Roman senators spoke of Eastern rivals, and before European merchants romanticized silks and spices, there was a vast land of mountains, deserts, and open skies, the Iranian plateau. Around the 2nd millennium BCE, Indo-Iranian tribes migrated into this region. They were part of the larger Indo-European linguistic family, the same distant ancestral branch that would one day produce Latin, Greek, Sanskrit, and countless European languages. They called themselves Arya, meaning noble. From this word would eventually emerge the term Iran. Among these tribes, two groups rose to prominence, the Medes and the Persians. The Medes settled in the northwest. They were powerful, organized, and for a time, dominant. The Persians settled further south in a region known as Pars, modern Fars. At first, they were simply one tribe among many. Their name referred only to a geographic area, not an empire. No one could have imagined that this small tribal group would soon redefine the political order of the ancient world. Then came a man whose ambition would reshape history. His name was Kurush. The world knows him as Cyrus the Great. When Cyrus rose to power in the 6th century BCE, he did something extraordinary. He defeated the Medes, not to annihilate them, but to unify them. From that moment, a new imperial force emerged, the Achaemenid Empire. Under Cyrus, Persia was no longer just a province. It became the core of a political revolution. But what made this revolution different was not merely conquest, but strategy. Where other empires ruled through terror and forced assimilation, Cyrus ruled through calculated tolerance. When he conquered Babylon, he did not burn it. He restored temples. He allowed exiled peoples, including the Jews, to return to their homeland. He presented himself not as a destroyer, but as a chosen ruler in the eyes of local gods. It was genius. The empire expanded at breathtaking speed. Under successors like Darius I, Persian rule stretched from the Indus River to the Aegean Sea, from Egypt to Central Asia. This was the largest empire the world had yet seen. The Greeks would call it Persis, after the province of Pars, and from that Greek word came Persia. Notice something crucial here. The name Persia was not originally what the inhabitants called their entire land. It was a foreign label, derived from one powerful region within a much larger and more diverse realm.
Inside the empire, inscriptions often used terms like Arianum, the land of the Aryans. Outside the empire, the Greeks simplified it to Persia. Two names, one civilization. At this stage, it did not matter. Power was secure, identity was unshaken. But empires do not last forever. In 334 BCE, a young Macedonian king crossed into Asia Minor. His name was Alexander the Great. In a series of decisive battles, Granicus, Issus, and finally Gaugamela, he shattered the Achaemenid military machine. The last Persian king, Darius III, fled and eventually killed.
The Persian Empire collapsed, or did it? Here is where history becomes fascinating. Alexander did not attempt to erase Persia. He admired it. He adopted Persian dress, married Persian royalty, and even sought to fuse Greek and Persian elites into a single ruling class. His own generals resented this Persianization. They had come to conquer the East, not become it. Yet Alexander understood something vital. Persia was more than a political structure. It was an administrative masterpiece. It was cultural prestige. It was legitimacy. When Alexander died in 323 BCE, his empire fragmented. The Seleucids ruled much of the former Persian territories. Later came the Parthians. Then, in the 3rd century CE, a dynasty arose that consciously revived ancient imperial traditions, the Sassanids. They presented themselves as heirs of the Achaemenids. They revived Zoroastrian state religion. They restored Persian royal imagery. They fought Rome as equals. And yet, even during all this, the outside world still called the region Persia. Inside, variations of Iran continued to circulate in literature and identity. The duality had begun. Then came a seismic shift. In the 7th century, Arab-Muslim armies swept across the plateau. The Sassanid Empire fell. Zoroastrianism gradually gave way to Islam. Arabic became the language of administration and theology. One might assume that this would erase Persian identity. It did not. Instead, Persian culture adapted. It absorbed Islam, reshaped it, and expressed it in its own language. Persian poetry flourished. Persian scholars became central to Islamic civilization. The language itself survived, though infused with Arabic vocabulary. Through centuries of Turkish dynasties, Mongol invasions under Genghis Khan, and the campaigns of Timur, the political map shifted repeatedly. But something remarkable endured. Not necessarily the empire, not necessarily the religion, but the idea of a distinct Iranian cultural identity. And that identity would be dramatically reshaped in the 16th century under a new dynasty that would permanently alter the region's religious and political landscape. Their name was the Safavids, and they would bring the word Iran back into the center of power. When the Safavid dynasty emerged in the early 16th century, the Iranian plateau was fragmented, a patchwork of competing rulers, tribal alliances, and shifting loyalties. Into this chaos stepped a young leader named Shah Ismail I. He was not merely a political figure. He was charismatic, mystical, and driven by a vision that would permanently transform the region. In 1501, Ismail captured Tabriz and declared himself Shah. But his most revolutionary act was not territorial conquest. It was religious transformation. Until that moment, most Muslims in the region had been Sunni, aligning with the majority of the Islamic world. Ismail imposed Twelver Shi'a Islam as the state religion, by force if necessary. This decision reshaped identity at its core. Religion became a defining marker separating Iran from its powerful Sunni neighbors, especially the Ottoman Empire. The Safavids were not simply restoring Persia, they were constructing a new kind of Iranian state, deeply Islamic, yet culturally Persian. Under Safavid rule, architecture flourished in cities like Isfahan. Persian art,
Miniature painting and poetry thrived. Trade expanded along Silk Road networks. And significantly, official documents increasingly use the term Iran to describe the realm. Inside the country, people referred to their land as Iran, derived from Iranum, the ancient designation meaning land of the Aryans. Outside the country, Europeans continued using Persia. Two names operated simultaneously. To the west, Persia, exotic, ancient, luxurious. To its people, Iran, ancestral, internal, authentic. This dual naming persisted through later dynasties such as the Qajars in the 19th century. European travelers romanticized Persia as a land of carpets, poetry, and lost imperial splendor. The name carried aesthetic charm, but also Orientalist stereotypes, decadence, stagnation, backwardness. Meanwhile, inside the country, reformers were grappling with modernity. The 19th and early 20th centuries were turbulent. Russia and Britain competed for influence in what was known as the Great Game. Concessions were extracted. Sovereignty was pressured. Intellectuals debated constitutionalism. In 1925, a military officer rose to power and founded a new dynasty. His name was Reza Shah Pahlavi. Reza Shah was determined to modernize. He built railways, centralized authority, limited clerical influence, and sought to forge a unified national identity that emphasized pre-Islamic heritage as much as Islamic tradition. And then, in 1935, he made a decision that would echo worldwide. He sent a formal request to foreign governments. From that point forward, they were to refer to the country as Iran in official correspondence. The change was diplomatic, but profoundly symbolic.
Why do this? Because Persia in Western discourse had become a romantic relic, an ancient civilization frozen in time. Reza Shah wanted a modern nation-state. He wanted a name that reflected indigenous identity rather than a Greek-derived exonym. Iran was not new. It had been used internally for centuries. But now it would replace Persia on the global stage. Reactions were mixed. Some intellectuals feared losing the international prestige associated with ancient Persia. Others welcomed the assertion of sovereignty and authenticity. The timing was controversial. In 1935, the term Aryan carried rising racial connotations in Europe due to Nazi ideology. Though Iran's use of Aryan was rooted in ancient linguistic identity, the overlap created misunderstandings. Still, the name change remained. From then on, international treaties, maps, and newspapers adopted Iran. Persia did not disappear, but it became historical rather than political. Then, in 1979, another transformation shook the nation. A revolution overthrew the monarchy. Led by Ruhollah Khomeini, the Islamic Republic of Iran was established. The word Iran now became associated globally not with imperial grandeur, but with revolution, clerical rule, and geopolitical tension. And something unexpected happened. While Iran became politically charged, Persia grew increasingly romantic in Western imagination, evoking ancient empires, poetry of Hafez, and the ruins of Persepolis. Two names, one land, but radically different emotional reactions. So how did Persia become Iran? The truth is, it did not. Persia was the name given by outsiders, derived from one powerful province of a vast empire. Iran was the name rooted in the civilization's own linguistic and cultural self-understanding. For centuries, both coexisted. In 1935, the balance shifted formally toward the internal name. Yet, even today, the dual identity persists. Cultural events abroad may use Persian to emphasize heritage. Official institutions use Iran. The transformation was not a disappearance. It was a reclamation.
behind the name change lies a deeper story, a civilization negotiating how it wants to be seen. Is it the heir of Cyrus and Darius? The heartland of Shi'a Islam? A modern nation-state resisting foreign influence? Or all of these at once? Names are not merely labels. They are mirrors. And sometimes changing a name is less about rewriting history and more about choosing which part of history to project into the future. Persia did not vanish. It evolved. It adapted. It renamed itself on the world stage, but never lost the memory of who it had always been. And that is the story no one told you. If you enjoyed this journey through time, subscribe for more deep explorations into the forgotten turning points of history, because behind every name lies a story waiting to be rediscovered.